So this is where everything's going to begin. It's not going to be the fanciest document of all time, but effectively what we are going to do is we are going to do a design document going over Slade kind of move by move, going over what I would change about him to give him a little bit more flair, a little bit more style, a little bit more love. Obviously this is my opinion, and because I don't have the dev tools to actually test any of this stuff, it's also obviously not as tested in game as I would like it to be, but this is the general directions that I would push this character to go based on how he exists right now. For this, we are going to be keeping all of his moves the same. So we're not going to change any moves. We're not going to change any mechanics. We're not going to change any gimmicks. Because we don't, that's unrealistic, right? Like, we can't expect the developers to make new moves. We can't expect the developers to put time into new animations and everything like that. So what we're going to do is stuff that makes sense within what the character has, but gives them a little bit more of a defined personality. So let's move on here. And I kind of like we need a title and then a little column. A title and then a column. We can do this. Okay, the Slade philosophy. We're going to insert a text box. And we're going to insert bullet points. All right, we're good. Where are the bullet points? Where are the bullet points on here? It's been a while, if I'm being honest. Here we go. Here we go. Slade? Allergic to bullets? Yeah. Many, So yeah, Slade has many unique mechanics interwoven into his character. In a vacuum, these mechanics could promote a very expressive type of gameplay. Sadly, many of the mechanics are competing with each other and are to some degree middling to promote character balance, which has left Slade in a spot where he has many unique options, none of which are really that good. Or synergistic. That's definitely spelled wrong. There we go. Yeah, with each other, not each out. Okay. If you catch spelling mistakes, that's fine. We're doing it live. So yeah, Slade has many unique mechanics interwoven in his character. In a vacuum, these mechanics could promote a very expressive type of gameplay. And sadly, many of these mechanics are competing with each other and are to some degree middling to promote character balance, which left Slade in a spot where he has many unique options, none of which are particularly good or synergistic. This is a run-on sentence. We will get over it. This is kind of it's kind of like a thesis statement, if that makes sense. If you guys have done any like university writing, this is our thesis statement. Aims to highlight two unique directions that Slade could be taken to make his game plan feel more comprehensive and complete. The two design directions are leaning into his zoning and camping. Are 1. Leaning into his zoning and camping capabilities in conjunction with items. Or 2, leaning into mid-range gameplay. His campling? Yeah. Leaning into his mid-range gameplay as a sword character who happens to have an item. It is obviously my preference that he plays more in accordance with design number 2, but I wanted to include a perspective for design number 1 as the bones are there should you like this direction. Okay. Make this a little bit bigger. Some more readability. Excellent. Okay. So this is effectively the philosophy of this presentation is Slade has a lot of unique mechanics that compete with each other. They either don't do the same thing, they don't go towards the same goal, and because of that, the devs had to nerf all of the mechanics pretty heavily so that he didn't just do everything very well. Unfortunately, that leads to him just having to camp because none of his options are particularly good. And he relies on the opponent getting bored. I will all right. That's going to be the start thing as like to why we're making this at all. Because as it stands, Slade is largely considered the worst character in the game while also being one of the most unfun and unengaging to fight. This is seen in both the video put out by the like tier list, the community tier list video put out by Last Talk, where a lot of people voted Slade as very bad and very unfun. And so that's why I feel like this presentation is to some degree worthwhile. Where even if you want him to be a character that is unfun to play against, just because he's a zoner, you can still lean into those capabilities without making him just purely degenerate and toxic, kind of like he is right now. So we're gonna move on to going over his base stats and what I think that they should look like. And we're gonna have most of it look like this, where it is I'm gonna call this the zoner. And I'm gonna call this the sortie. And so what we're gonna do is many of the slides are going to look like this and are going to separate the design space into the two different zones where we talk about like different aspects of how I would change it depending on which direction that they decide to go. We're also going to review these at the end so that we get a comprehensive view of like what we're kind of expecting and what we're going for. Base stats. So let's start with the zoner. If we are going to make Slade a zoner, it makes sense that the character is slow. His ground speed makes a lot of sense as is for a character that's considered a pretty heavy zoner. If you don't want him to be like super toxic and camping, his jump and airspeed makes sense for a character that's considered a zoner. Typically, these characters have worse movement, have a little bit more difficulty moving around. So I actually think if you are going to go the route of the zoner, I don't think he needs any changes. I think his stats are good for what a zoner would be, and if we're leaning into that playstyle again, you don't want to make him too able to move around because it puts him in a spot where he can just camp you out a little bit too easily, and he has too many options for kind of getting around for free. That being said, there will be a change later when we talk about the upgrades and stuff like that that will impact what this looks like a little bit. And actually, you know what? I think his wave dash length could be buffed. Because Absa has a really, really strong wave dash length. Slade with boots is still worse than Absa at 171. And so I think there's a middle ground here where maybe we go 161 on his wave dash length. Yeah, 161. To kind of find a middle ground between where it is now and the boost that you get from the boots. So I'm gonna go. It is currently 154.8. We'll up it to around 161 here. This is going to give him more ability to move around via wave dash, which is a nice thing to have for a zoner. And we'll give him a little bit more mobility around the stage without making him so oppressive insofar as what all of this looks like. I would also increase his dash dance length a little bit. And let me just, yeah, like this is stupid. Abscess is also very, very small. But I feel like you could make it a little bit bigger. Not to the point where it's like this or even this, because like these are such strong outliers. But he can have something that is probably more akin to this. So give him like a 1. Let's say like a 185. So 162.5 on dash dance length. Just to give him a little bit more of a mix up insofar as what he's going for. So 162.5. This is dash dance length. I like this number being like a little bit below Fleet because Fleet does feel fairly mobile around the stage while not being too oppressive. 162.5 to roughly 185. These are probably the only changes I would make. This would make him feel a little bit more mobile and neutral. He'd still be bad in the air. But at the very least, he'd have a little bit more of a mix-up insofar as what he could do. And yeah, in terms of mixing up his like game plan while pulling an item. One other thing, and this would be like a system change. if you went the zoner variant, which would be to make Z-drop catching items possible. Currently, this is something that you cannot do. It's something that you can do in Ultimate, if anyone wants an example of what this looks like. But it's effectively, you Z-drop an item, then you instantly do an aerial, and the aerial will pick up the item for you. So this is a big one. This would be the absolute biggest thing that the zoning, you cannot see that. I thought it would highlight it, but that's just text. Oh, yeah, there's a highlight. Okay. You would have to mess around with this to see how it felt and to see what the actual implementation of this was. But effectively, if you made Z-drop catching items possible, Slade all of a sudden gets way more flexible insofar as the kind of combos that he can go for. It is worth noting, this also increases counterplay as most characters use items in combos more effectively than Slade does. So it also introduces counterplay. So obviously Slade has the advantage being the one who gets the item and is the one who practices with the items. But this is going to open up a lot of flexibility for other characters and people who put in the time to do Z-drop item catch combos as well. So I think if you go the zoner direction, which to be clear, I don't really particularly want, this is a change I would like to see implemented because it would increase expression across the board and make the character more engaging to play against, in my opinion. We are now going to go to the sortie. Both of these changes I like, just on base principles. Those are both changes I would like to see on the sortie as well. That being said, if we are going the sword direction and nerfing, if Slades can't be harder, I might have to throw hands. They can't camp harder than they are right now. The sortie is going to have some changes that I would like to see. One is nerfing his weight. I believe he's the 6th heaviest character in the game right now at 97. I think you could bring him down if you made him a sword character to 93. Putting him in a line just below Zetterburn. Yeah, I would say 97 to 93. Please fix Slade. I'm trying. Okay? I'm trying. Okay. Make him weigh a little bit less. That being said, we are going to increase his run speed. Not too significantly, but at least a little bit. Where's run speed on here? Dash speed. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. No, this is not what we're looking for. Is run speed not on here? Maybe it is just dash speed. Am I crazy? Yeah, I guess it is just dash speed. Surely not, though. Oh, you just scroll down and then it has run speed. Okay. So dash speed and run speed are different. Yeah, just because the acceleration and deceleration changes a little bit how they move. I don't think Slade needs to have the most acceleration of all time. It's pretty low right now. Like his dash is kind of bad. But if we're increasing the dash dance length, I think that's okay. And it doesn't need to be this crazy good. It's already decent. I think the thing we need to look out for is 16.5 is a little low for a character like this. I would want to see it bump to 17 or even 17.5. Um, Based on the dash speed being so much slower. Like if the dash speed is 16, you're not going to reach this top speed as frequently. So I think I'm fine with keeping the dash speed the same, but I'm wanting the run speed to probably be around like a 17.4. Um, uh, Give or take, right? Like a 17.4, 17.5. We'll put it there for now. I think that makes a significant difference in how fast the character is able to move around the stage on the ground. And it's going to give them more options to approach. Air acceleration is the other big one. Airspeed and air acceleration are both very slow, 13th in the game. These, in my opinion, need to improve if you want to make the character have some degree of engagement with approaching. I am fine with the character being floatier, but you need some airspeed and you need some air acceleration. Better than what they are right now. Even Olympia's is bad and Slade's is worse than that. I think Slade should be at Olympia or better. If I'm being honest, I'm thinking more around what Lorena has. So Lorena's 777, and then airspeed is also 11.9. So if we put Slade just below what Lorena is, um, he has a decent amount of flexibility in the air. Yeah, without being too crazy. His horizontal jump speed is pretty quick, actually. And for some reason, his Excel is just like so much lower. Like, why not make it a 75 like just about everyone else? So we're gonna go from 0.65, I think is what it's at right now, 64. And we're gonna change that to 0.75. This is like a lot of characters have this. And it feels very reasonable. You're bringing people more towards the middle, but like it's even worse than them. You're even with Claren. I think that's I don't have too much of a problem with that. The horizontal airspeed, obviously we don't need to be this crazy good. That being said, being in like this between like being at the same as Lockstone doesn't make any sense. If we're going for this kind of like faster play style. So I think moving more towards a 12 is probably where I would be on this. And this would go from 10.7 to, you do 11.5 to 12. But we'll be conservative and we'll do 11.5 here. Yeah. In terms of the stats, I'm pretty happy with this. This gives him, while being floaty, gives him some more flexibility in the air, gives him an ability to move around the stage easier. He's a little lighter as a trade-off. But this character is significantly more mobile than the one that we have right now. He still has a big short hop height, which I think is good, right? Like I think that's interesting insofar as something that we add to the game. I'm pretty happy with that. Does he have the worst baby dash in the game? No, not quite. He's just better than these fellows. Okay, whatever. Slade start making campfire. Am I supposed to bring marshmallows? Yeah. There's gonna be more changes, okay, guys? You have to see the changes as a whole. But this is the direction that I would go with these. If you're making these changes, in this case, do not make this system change. This is leaning into more the like sword character identity that feels a little bit better to play with. So I am pretty happy with this. There might be some more changes that have to happen behind the scenes in terms of like what all of these numbers look like to make it feel good. Um, but I think as a combination, this is a character that feels significantly less restricted by the movement of the game, whereas this one does not have that same comfortability. Okay, so in terms of base stats, we're going to come back to this, but this is what we're going to go over to start. Okay, here's a question. Do we want to go over specials because those feel transformative, or do we want to go over his normals first? I'll let you guys decide. And we can kind of go from there because the specials definitely define a large part of how these two differentiate themselves. But, okay, we're going to do normals first then. Jam. Okay, we're going to do jab. Jab is not too bad. I actually don't have many problems with jab. So this is going to be a quick slide, if I'm being honest. I think jab makes sense. Honestly, insofar as what both characters like are trying to do, it's a pretty generous hitbox. You can use it to anti-air. I don't really have a problem with what jab does right now. And I think it fits within both designs fairly well, even at frame 6. So I'm actually going to say no changes to jab. Just because I actually don't think there's anything wrong so much with jab. I think it serves its perfect purpose as like an anti-air. As a quick poking tool. And the rapid jab is kind of a get off me. I don't really have any particular problem with jab. I don't know if I should write that down. You can watch the video. Like I said, it's an anti-air. It's a decent poke tool. I think both archetypes are fine with navigating what the jab looks like. And I don't have any problems with that at all. Let me include a picture of it. That's jab. No problems with jab. That's a fine move. Okay. Forward tilt. This is where we get into some more differentiators. Forward tilt's an interesting move. It's pretty slow. It is pretty punishable at minus 15 and minus 18. But it does control a lot of space in front of him. The hitbox is fairly generous insofar as its active frames, and it knocks down fairly early. I like what jab does for all of those things. Or what forward tilt does for all of those things. So I actually think for the zoner side of things, I actually don't have a ton of issues with forward tilt, other than I would take its shield safety from minus 18, probably closer to minus 14, where it is you can't wave dash punish it. You have to be within range to punish it. I think that's the only change I would make on the zoner side of things. Would be making the move a little bit safer. To minus 14. Okay. This will allow you to create space as the zoner. Um, if we are going for this character as a swordy, I actually don't think that this move needs changes. You could actually move the tumble percent. I wouldn't move it back. But this is a pretty standard sword hitbox. Maybe if you're going for the swordy, you increase the knockback a little bit. To the point where maybe it kills at some point, but even then, I feel like that's not really necessary. It's a pretty good spacing tool regardless, and it knocks down fairly early, which is going to be good. So what I'm just going to write down is, because it knocks down so early, there's no changes. Uh, Yeah, so no changes. Because this knocks down early, it doesn't need a change. It'll be buffed relatively as an option because the sortie will be able to cover tech options more readily as a result of the general stats that they received. So this move gets better latently, but we don't actually need to change the move itself for the sortie. And it should be punishable if you're going for it in this case. So pretty happy with that. I'll include a picture here as well. Is the image we're going for. That's forward tilt. Okay, moving on. Next we have up tilts. Up tilt is a very good move. Part of the reason the move is so good is because if you hit the right hitbox on it, like if you get the tipper hitbox, it sends at a very nice angle. Obviously, the move's a good anti-air in general, and it is fairly fast at a frame 9 startup. It is super negative on shield, which is too bad. That being said, I think this move again is largely okay as is because of how big it is. And having a movement based buff is going to make it a little bit more readily usable, if that makes sense. It also tumbles at 0 if you get the blade hitbox, and tumbles very, very early if you get the body hitbox. I think one change we are going to make to the sortie is moving back the blade tumble percent. Um, to match probably what the body is, and so having the tumble percent be closer to probably about 30. Again, rough numbers because we can't test it, but to roughly 30%. Move back the body tumble percent. You can move it back probably about 10%. So then you have what's that? What, 28% now? Move it to about 35. Move it to 40. So you don't get the tumble as early, which means there is opportunities to floor hug it until that percent. This I'm not too mad about. As a result, though, we are going to make it safer on shield. Right now, it's minus 24 to minus 18, depending on if you get the front or the back hit. I want the back hit to be safe. If we are making the move tumble later, I want the back hit to be pretty safe. Not to the point, again, where it's ungrabbable. I think -8 would be too safe to the point where you'd just be spamming it. But I do want something like -12 where it is tricky to punish. Again, especially if you get the back hit, because it's not like the front hit. If the back hit is -12, we add 6 frames to that. The front hit is -18, which is what you get on the back hit currently. I think I'm happy with that. -24 to -18. We're going to change that to -18 to -12. This could probably afford to be even safer than this if you get the back hit. Again, I don't have a problem with back hit of a move being safe, especially if you space it like this one. And I think it opens up cool opportunities for, like, you can do a falling back air and then do a reverse up tilt, and it's pretty hard to punish. I like this, if I'm being honest. You change the tumble percent, but you make the move more applicable if you space it properly. And it's still to some degree punishable. I might even say this. Again, you'd have to mess with the numbers to make sure that this wasn't spammable. So you put like everything needs in-game testing, but this would need some messing around. So just like you would need to get the numbers right on this. But I don't hate it. Frame 9, it's pretty fast for a move like this. What is clearance? Because clearance up tilt gets you more than this. Clearance is also frame 9. And is safer. Okay, so I'm not mad at all. What the fuck? What was I even worried about? Clarence is safer. You get more off of it. I'm super happy with that for up tilt then. Yeah, I have no problems with that. Clarence up tilt. Well, this is still gonna be worse than Clarence up tilt. So I'm pretty happy about this. I like this. This gives you some like unique outplay potential. This might be. Make this 25. Maybe make this 35. Okay, the zoner in terms of up tilt. I don't think this move needs too many changes, other than I think the body hitbox should have a better angle. If you're slow and you manage to hit this move. I think the body hitbox should send at a better angle. I don't think it should have as much of a tipper. I still think it should have a tipper, but I don't think it should be as significant. Yeah, if we go the zoner route, it would be making the up tilt more uniform. Just so that like if you hit it and someone jumps in and you hit the up tilt, you're more likely to get a follow up. Whereas this one gives you new opportunities to follow up on the up tilt. Because the safety on shield could be as a result of less end lag, could also be a result of less of more damage. It does 8%. I don't know if I'd want it to do much more than 8%, but if you made the end lag on this, because what are we proposing? Pretty heavy, 8 frames. So then this move would end on frame 16, pretty much as soon as it started. Surely not, right? Surely not. How is it minus 18 then? Contact. '15th active frame. And then you have 18 more frames? Yeah, I guess so. It's only one frame of shield stun. Yeah, because if you got rid of 8 frames, you'd be down to 16. Which means it would be active and then you'd only be inactionable for 1 frame. So, a little bit. Okay. So effectively, slightly less end lag, slightly more damage. Maybe do the damage up by 1%, give it a little bit less end lag. And then you also have better follow-up afterwards, which would be sweet. This would allow you to get some more follow-up on the improper DI, while still keeping it, again, minus 16 on the blade hit. This would still be minus 18 on the body hit, and minus 12 on the body hit backwards, which I feel like is unlikely to happen. So, it's still fairly unsafe on shield, still pretty punishable, especially for most characters. That being said, if you get that back hit, minus 10 is very safe. So, I think that's what we're looking for, though. You could even do minus... Maybe this is a sweet spot. Minus 11 for a little bit more interactivity there. But there's a pretty significant, like, rework of how the move works. And then this, again, would just be allowing for easier follow-ups if you actually got it to hit. This would make it more of an aggression tool, which I like. An aggression tool where you're going for the back hit is, in my opinion, unique and cool. Here's up tilt. Okay. We move. Next move is down tilt. I also don't have too many notes for down tilt, but I do have a couple. So, down tilt. You'll notice that this move does not actually hit very high. The change that I would have in mind for... Because how active is this move? Hit 2 is active 14 to 16, which is 3 frame? Yeah, 2 frames. 3 frames. I would add a 4th frame on this. Okay, this move is so bad on whiff. It would be cool if you added a 4th frame here And what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this image. That made it a little bit better. Insofar as anti-airs, where you had one more frame. Can I draw on this? Draw. Change the angle of the first hit so it reliably links into the second. They already tried that, so I don't know what to say, really. Give me a circle. I want another hitbox. That exists. Maybe not that high. Right here. I want this. So you see, it's not that crazy. It's about half a circle above where this is now. This is where I would have this hitbox go. Would it be good? Yes, it would be good. But this is, again, if you're wanting to make him a zoner, make him act a little bit more like one. And give him some like actually relevant tools insofar as being one. This makes down tilt better at stuffing people out, and gives it a little bit more reliability. For how risky it is to use. This move is so negative on shield. Minus 19. Has 22 frames of end lag. Like it is super easy to interrupt this move. Dude, 22 frames of end lag is crazy. Yeah. So this is what I would do. For the sortie, I would not do this. I would change this move to just be safer on shield. Much like forward tilt was for this guy. I think down tilt would need to serve this function for the sortie. So the forward tilt function that you get here comes down to here. Almost the exact same numbers as well. Where this move is minus 19 at best. I want to see that that move down to minus 14. Around minus 14. So you go minus 21 to minus 19. You do minus 16 to minus 14. And we move that to Does it need to be minus 14? No, it doesn't need to be minus 14. I think 17 to 15 is actually probably fine. Well, 21 to 19 is only 2, so we go minus 17 to minus 5, minus 15. Makes the move easier to throw out. You're more likely to not get punished for doing it spaced. And gives you a little bit more flexibility as a combo starter. More flexibility and follow-up. I like this for down tilt. Pretty happy. Again, 2 different directions that I would go with it. But this needs to be a little bit safer if you are wanting the character to play this like more aggressive play style. Dash attack. This is an interesting one because this move is actually quite good. I don't think I would change this move. Okay, yeah, for the zoner, no changes. This is already a good attack. He doesn't need a dash attack that's better than this. In fact, no changes, or you nerf the knockback angle. I wouldn't want it to cross up better. I think for this move, if you're the sortie, you change the startup from 14 to 12. What is Clarence again? Clarence is probably around that 14 as well. 15. Okay, yeah, so that is in line. Force Burns is probably faster, but more DIable. Yeah, Force Burns is 9. Okay, so like 12 is in between those two, while still being a combo starter. Okay. Dash attack is actually a pretty easy one. There's not too many changes that I would like to see that move. It's already one of the moves that is very, very good. I think this would be completely fine to just leave as is, but these are like, if you're gonna make a small change to it, this is the change I would make. But I'm pretty happy with these moves already. So you can already see how this philosophy that we included at the start is kind of like finding its way into these different moves, right? How do they show up? How do the differences that we are proposing change the play style, right? The sortie is a more significant departure from what we are expecting. That being said, the zoner does still get some different things to deal with what a zoner is wanting to do and the kind of like approach you're wanting to take to the game. Yeah, pretty happy with that overall. I think this is now going to get into strong attacks. In which case, I'm actually not going to change any of them. I don't think the strong attacks are a problem. That being said, I will add slides for them. But I don't think there are many things I would change about these. I might have little notes here and there. And actually, I might put some notes on down smash just because I have some feelings about that move. No, I am gonna mention down strong is worth mentioning. Yeah. Okay, up strong. And actually for the zoner, I'm gonna put slightly increase knockback. This is gonna be a capital slightly. Yeah, on this order you could slightly decrease the vertical height of the move, but I'm not sure that would be too necessary. Being able to tech tage double down strong is kind of nutty. The thing is, you can only do that if your opponent floor hugs. If you don't floor hug, it doesn't do that. So it's kind of on you to some degree to not floor hug it. That being said, I do think Downstrong needs a pass, which is why I'm going to include it on here. Okay. This is it's a hard move to navigate. Because it's one of Slade's only options for beating Floor Hug at low percents. And not only is it one of his only options, it's by far the best. Especially at frame 8. I think best case scenario, you make this a little bit more similar to Forsburns. Which is too bad because yeah, but I guess the move also doesn't kill. But maybe you want it to if you're yeah, but you don't really. High end lag, yeah, 40 frames end lag. Man, what does Slade's have? It's definitely like a unique move. It's got half the end lag of Forsburns, which is why it feels so different. I it's difficult to argue that you should change this because it's over centralized in his kit, but it's also like it feels like it has to be. Or else he just has like a glaring weakness at low percents to a particular type of thing. And while annoying, it's not even necessarily that good. I would probably pop some more end lag on this move. And then probably increase for the zoner, probably increase the knockback growth. Just to make it riskier to whiff. Yeah, because it's got 23 frames of end lag right now. You could probably add 3 or 4 frames to that, which makes it pretty unsafe. And you could probably add a frame of startup, but increase the knockback growth. Okay. Yeah, that's probably fine. This brings it more in a line with Forsburn. But still keeps it as like a potential combo move at low percents. Bring it to like 27. That way it kills around 140. This is still later than Forsburns, but it has the increased utility of like knocking down a couple times. And beating Floor Hug. Okay. For the sortie, I would probably do both of these things. Just because the move still does feel like that. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily make it a kill move at later percents. I might even lower the knockback angle. But not everything needs to be a combo move. I think, honestly, I think this is just fine as is. Just give it a small nerf. Still something you would feel would make the move a little bit worse. Definitely makes it worse on shield. But keeps it useful, broadly speaking. It would be a crazy good move for this version of the character. This is what I would change about Down Strong. Again, it's kind of nerfs across the board, other than this high percent small buff. Make his down smash push back on shield way less. I don't know if I agree with that. If we're adding 4 extra frames of end leg and an extra frame of startup, I think it more than makes up for the shield pushback. I'm not mad about that at all. Because this is effectively, you have an extra frame to get it before it comes out, and then you have 4 extra frames after, which means you can now jump and stuff while getting the same speed that you would have before. I think this is a reasonable nerf. We could evaluate this if it got to why nerf the frame data, because right now the whole way that you use it is you just mash it at low percents out of floor hug. That's the whole reason you use it. And you use it to tech chase. And so nerfing the startup makes it that little bit harder to tech chase with because it's not as fast. And it's not as good out of floor hug, again, because it's a little small, a little shorter. And if it misses, so if I whiff or you shield, you get a bigger punish. That's very, very reasonable. Obviously stuff you can go look at more. Okay, now we get into the aerials. Neutral air is a tough one because this move is fucking insane. And the better a character you put it on, the better it gets. Yeah. It's definitely a weird one. I don't think you change this move at all. For the zoner, I say you go no changes. I think this move is crazy good on a like zoning type character. And then you might actually nerf this move a little bit. To like a 6 frame startup. And have it be more of an extender. I think you probably do. But if I'm thinking about out of shield, I'm thinking about being like a more aggressive character. Yeah, I think you probably nerf this move. Make it frame 6. Still crazy good. Could consider buffing the weak hit knockback angle. Yeah, you could consider this. You'd have to see how it played out. It's hard to say that that's something I want. And I would increase the knockback of this move ever so slightly. All right. Yeah, still make it worse than Rano's, but not making it so good that it's just like a super reliable kill move. But I think this move should be, especially on the zoner where you're like a slower character, it should. It like never kills right now. Let me see. Rano's is also frame 4. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, Rano's is also frame 4, and Rano's will kill it like 130, 140, whereas Slade's like never kills. So I would bring it more in alignment with Rano's if we're going the zoner route. Forward air. This is where we get a little spicy. This is the move that I think of the aerials needs the most changes. And so you're gonna see a lot of stuff on this section of the presentation. Forward air is a move that currently feels pretty bad to use. It feels pretty bad to use. And the amount of time, like there is, what is this, 12 frames between hit 1 and 2? Again, just feels whack. Getting the -4 on shield is actually really hard. It's pretty tough. If you shield the first hit, yeah, you're not gonna be able to punish the second hit super easily, but like just shield the second hit, it's -8 at best, which means you get a free punish. So effectively for the sortie, I would change this move pretty significantly. And how I would change it is to bring it more in alignment with like more in alignment with potentially like a young Link. Or just to make it yeah, pretty much to make it more in alignment with like a young Link where the move is faster. So I'd probably want this on a like a frame 10. And has less of a gap. So instead of having this 12 frame gap, I would want closer to like 6 to 8 frames. So I'd want the startup to go from 14 to around 10. Obviously, you mess with that number a little bit and see what ends up feeling good. It could be faster, it could be slower. What is Clarence? Clarence is probably way faster than that, but also has less reward. Yeah, Clarence is frame 6, so I'm pretty happy with frame 10. Yeah, give the move frame 10 startup. The gap between fair 1 and 2 right now is 12 frames. I want that to be from 6 frames is pretty fast. To I would say around 8 frames. I would say around 6 to 8 frames. Decrease fair 1 initial knockback. Decrease fair 1 knockback for more consistent links into fair 2. And oh, my computer's lagging. Okay, so this is kind of a rework to the move where the move is a decent bit faster. The move is still safe, or at least fairly safe, but it's easier to use. You're going to be faster, so you're going to have more capacity to use it. It's going to link into Fair 1 and 2 a little bit better. Which is going to allow you to do a lot more with the move. It's just going to feel a lot better all around. Because you're going to be able to find some like combos out of it. You're going to be able to find some like shield pressure out of it. You're going to be able to do more mix-ups out of it because it comes out faster. And it's going to lead to more combo potential. So this is I'm fine with that remaining largely the same. -4 on shield is really good. -8 on shield is pretty good. You're not often getting that with this move, but if we're making it faster and we're making it more of a combo tool, I have no problem with it feeling somewhat unsafe if not used properly, because you should be using it properly at this point. The hitbox on the first hit of this move is quite weird, but yeah, that's fine. They did just make a change that made this feel less bad, but it still does feel kind of bad. Which is where we get to the zoner, which is the only change that I would make for this move for the zoner would be a slight knockback increase. Because this move feels like it doesn't kill early enough, considering what it is. And I would want this hitbox to be better. So we're going to take image here. It would just be a slight increase to the first hitbox of Fair 1, where instead of the hitbox starting here, again, we will insert these circles here. The hitbox would be a little closer to up here. So you get more of like a swipe on it. And obviously it's not like perfect, but look a little bit more like that, where you get a little bit more of a swipe than you currently do, where it currently feels quite small. It would be nice for it to go over his head so that you cover this airspace with it. Which actually ends up being quite a bit higher, but I think if that's what you're going to do with it, that's what you're going to do with it. So I would love to see something like that for Fair. Again, two very different directions. This move, I think, needs a lot of love either way. And I think these are two different ways to go that make the move more interesting as a whole. Next up, we have back air. I actually really like back air as a move, especially for what it is. I actually think for both the zoner and the sortie, I have no changes I would make to back air. I like back air a lot. I think it allows for unique stuff, and I think with the changes that the zoner were getting in terms of like item combos and stuff like that, I think back air would facilitate that as well in a fun way. So I'm fine with back air remaining as is. We didn't add a picture of neutral there. There we go. Up air. Here we go. Okay, this is an interesting move because this is one of the moves, again, that feels very unaligned with the two design visions that this character has. Where, from the context of the Swordy, why did I say it like that? This move needs no changes. This move, I would not change up air for the Swordy. For the it's pretty active as is. It's active for a long time. For the zoner, I might not change this either. I probably wouldn't. The way I would change this, I would just give him a new move. And I think that's probably not what we want to do. So I'm going to put no changes here as well. But I would give him a new move in this slot if I was to do that. I don't think the up air is super indicative of what this character is trying to do, but also at the same time, it's not bad. It does what it's supposed to do. Happy with that. We move on to down air. This move is one of the moves that a lot of the other moves are balanced in the context of. And so, this is a move that, again, I probably would not change in any significant way. I think pretty much everything is in relation to how this move works. I think for the zoner, you want to remove the spike hitbox at the top. For the Swordy, the spike hitbox is cool, and your extra airspeed allows for you to mix it into combos, so I would put no changes. I'd actually like to see them keep the spike hitbox, but for the zoner, for the sake of consistency, I would want to remove the spike hitbox at the top. It's more annoying than it is useful most of the time. We kind of banged out a bunch of these aerials because they actually didn't need a bunch of changes. I think forward air is the most significant one. But a lot of these moves didn't need significant love. Funny enough, the aerials are not what I have a big problem with other than forward air. I like Slade's aerials a lot. And I think they can serve the purpose of both game plans. Okay. Now we get into the spicy stuff. Where there needs to be some, like, significant changes made. Especially depending on how you want this character to play. So, we're going to start with the zoner. We were theory crafting this a little bit yesterday and going over some of the directions that we thought we could go in terms of being able to navigate what effectively would make the character stronger from a zoning perspective while keeping the spirit of, like, the items intact. And something we thought of was being able to store items So this is gonna be you to store the item. Holding shield while an item is being charged allows you to store the item. Stored items can be thrown immediately by pressing B. Can be thrown immediately by pressing B. This throw bypasses the charge time, allowing the item to be thrown around frame 12 to 15 instead of like frame 30. Yeah, because right now it's like frame 36 almost. Storing an item costs the cost of the item times 2. So for example, storing a bomb costs 600 gold. This is by far the biggest change that the zoner would receive that I think would make him more engaging to play. This allows more flexible control over your items and the way in which you use your items at the cost of the gold mechanic. So, storing something like a bomb to throw on frame 12 to 15, because like what is Zediburn's side B? It's probably not that fast. Yeah, frame 16. So we probably want to move this to frame like 15 ish. Slightly decrease the knockback growth of the bomb, but effectively what this allows you to do is to store an item instead of just having it in your hand. And so instead of just having it in your hand, you have more situations where you can set up combos, you can set up scenarios, you can try and surprise people with it. You don't have all of this like timing issues that kind of exist otherwise, and it allows the moves to be used in combos and stuff, which is cool. I really like the idea of being able to use the items in combos. So you would not have an item in hand when it is stored, right? You would not have it in hand. You would have it yeah, it would still be like in, so you would still have all of your normal options, but you wouldn't have the movement options associated with that. I considered I'm still thinking about how a shulk, you trade item for being able to do your normal moves. There's also a cost associated with it, but at the same time, if you pay the cost, it allows you to have more flexibility about like when you're using the item. This would all be in the instance. I guess I should put this at the start. This is if you do not implement Z-drop recatches. This becomes somewhat redundant if you do implement Z-drop recatching, because it allows you to do a lot of this stuff. So if you don't implement Z-drop recatch, I think you implement this this item storage mechanic. If you do implement the Z-drop recatch, that's when if you do, put a little star around do. And then turn this off. So if you do implement Z-drop recatching, allow Slade to effectively allow Slade to pick up the items in the order that he wants using the shulk menu, and then Z-drop recatch allows you to do a lot of cool stuff with them. But if you don't do the Z-drop recatch, this item storage mechanic allows him to spend money, particularly on shurikens, to potentially extend combos and extend follow-ups and increases like zoning potential based on what item he has stored, which is really cool. I think it's a cool mechanic. So I think there's something here. Obviously, you could iron out exactly what this looks like. Maybe if you hold B after the item storage, you can then recycle the items. So there's different things to consider in this. The other benefit of having item storage means that you can cancel your items into a shield, which has utility in terms of you pay a cost to be a little bit more safe while pulling your items. So I really like this mechanic. I think it would be cool to implement. Obviously, it's more complicated. This is a pretty significant change. This would make the zoning potential quite a bit stronger. It makes zoning follow-ups quite a bit stronger, and it would give you a lot more flexibility if you wanted to make this character a zoner. The Swordy has none of this. You shouldn't fuck with any of this if you're trying to make him more like a sword character. In the case of him being again more aligned with a sword character, genuinely, I would just decrease the amount of time that it takes to pull a shuriken. That's probably the only change I would make, to the point where like potentially you can use the shuriken in a combo. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in your recovery because it's a little faster to pull. Yeah, you just slightly decrease the amount of time it takes to pull a shuriken. Could allow for shuriken use in combos. Gives more pre-upgrade recovery flexibility slightly. And allows slightly easier access to movement tech. Okay. This is the only thing I would change. You could also, in the case that you were, again, trying to make the items less of a priority, keep the... Yeah, you would keep the other items the same speed. Keep the other items the same speed. I don't have too much of a problem with any of this. You might move the tumble percent back on Boomerang, and yeah. Because Boomerang tumbles around 55 to 66%, and drop of nourishment is 49 to 62%. I would move them back, that tumble percent to around, I would say at the earliest, probably 70, and then at the latest, if this is the like 12%, 82. 70 to 82. That even might still be a little early. I think the Shuriken on tier 2. I think you could probably do 65 to 80%, and then move tumble percent back on Boomerang 2. I think Boomerang you probably move back to over 100. Where it only tumbles pretty late into the stock. On the like Absa probably 95, and then do like 95 to 110, depending on the character. That is a 15% difference. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. So in the later characters, they're only getting knocked down at like 110%. That changes how quickly those moves become useful, though they do still get useful at those later percents. The Shuriken, I would move the tumble percent on Shuriken back as well. If the Boomerang is 95 to 100, I would want the Shuriken even further past that. So I'd say 110. So when the Shuriken could start knocking down. And then 125 would be the latest. So then this is a clear difference on like when these moves tumble. That gives them some more utility on those different percents. But yeah, this just like gives the Shuriken some more utility while also making sure that these aren't still too good. When this character has extra like movement options and stuff like that. So I do like this as a whole, and I would be pretty happy if neutral special was changed in some degree to reflect these things. Okay, next thing I believe is forward special. This is a weird one. Again, we're going to go two very different directions with what I think this move should do, depending on what you want the character to be doing. Okay. So, for the zoner, I think this should be like a mix-up tool. So this move will go back and forth insofar as what its purpose is, more broadly speaking. So if we are viewing it as a mix-up tool, the first hit does not tumble until 163%. That is not acceptable. Okay, that move needs to go. It needs to take you off the, like, it loses the floor hug until 163. It shouldn't be that long. So I'm just gonna call it F1. For forward 1. Tumble percent. I would say the tumble percent should be around 125. So right now it is 163 to 200. I would change it to for the heavier characters, it makes sense that it doesn't tumble quite as early. I'd say 125. That's a 40% difference on these characters too. I would say 125 to like 135. Potentially even earlier than this. I might go 115 to 125. This means you're going to start opening up characters way earlier, which could be broken. I think this percent, if people are dying to forward special at this percent, it's not going to be that bad. I also think F2 down should beat Floor Hug. Which it doesn't do right now. I think that move should beat Floor Hug around 60%. But it doesn't beat Floor Hug until 110. This one, like, hit 2 up beats it around 71, but the difficulty is it's so much slower. I actually think hit 2 should start sending into tumble around that, like, I think if you're floor hugging, I would want this move to be floor hug around 60 or 70%. This just allows the move to be more useful. Not to say that you get a guaranteed follow-up even after it. Okay, so no guaranteed follow-up, but plus enough to catch slower options with 4-3 or 4-3 down if they floor hug F2 down. Again, pretty happy with this. It gives it more mix-up capability insofar as like what the move is for. You get potentially a big hit for going for a read. The move gets scarier while you have an item in hand. I like it overall. Okay. So that effectively just makes it so you can catch people out for mashing. It just gives you an option where if they floor hug side B2 and you know that they are going to if you know that they are going to go for a floor hug on side B2, you can do the side B2 down, which leaves you plus, where you can potentially find other mix-ups if you decide not to go for anything, or if you think that they're going to mash after floor hugging with like a slower option, or even like a grab potentially, depending on how it's spaced. You'll be able to get a forward 4 tilt 3 or 4 tilt 2 down to punish those things. Currently, this is just not the case. You can always just floor hug, and it's not a big deal. And even in the cases where uh, the second hit sends into tumble at 70, you just tech and you're out of it. So I want something that just stuffs floor hug as a whole at a certain percent. You could even make this a little earlier. You could probably make this 50 to 60 when it starts coming online. And then it's something that you actually have to worry about in the mix-ups. I think in this case, you probably make side B1 a little bit slower. Yeah, right now it's frame 9. I think you probably make it frame 11. You make the startup a little bit slower to compensate for like the buffs you give it. What is Claren? Again, I'm using Claren as a reference for some of this stuff. Her jab is frame 6, which down till frame 7. Yeah, and those are both like huge moves. Okay, so I think side B, I'm fine with being frame 11. Makes it a decent bit slower, but gives it some more utility, especially at those like mid percentages, where now you can go for like mix-ups on it and stuff like that. For the sortie, slightly increase the upwards hop you get when using side B1 in the air. Okay. So you know what I'm talking about when you use side B in the air and it like stalls your momentum for a little bit, but you get that like little float. I want this to be even better. I want it to stall you a little bit more. I want you to like put you in that space for a little bit longer. I want it to take up more space in the air. While increasing its how plus it is on hit. So like when you use it in the air, I want it to give you more time to follow up. So I guess that would be decreasing the end leg on side B1. Martha and Royce just reset your fall speed. I don't know how Slade's works by comparison, but I know and maybe it's because Marth is like floatier that he stays in the air for a little bit longer. I upwards hop is the wrong word. The stall. I would just slightly increase the stall you get. So maybe you just float there for like an extra half a beat. When using side B1 in the air. I just want it to be a better stalling option. And then I want to slightly decrease. Because his gravity's too high. Yeah. I want Slade to be able to use it a little bit more to recover, but also a little bit more to find extensions in the air. So the end leg is 21 frames. I don't know how much you would need to decrease it to start finding follow-ups. But if you put it down to like 18, 19, maybe you start allowing for stuff on hit. I'd say so right now it's 21. You make that like 18. I think this would be really cool. It would make side B more usable. It gives you something to do off stage where you get that like extra bit of stall insofar as what you're doing. You use side B to recover a little bit. You don't have to wait as much between using like multiple side Bs. And it allows you to extend combos in the air potentially. I think it already has a hitbox that pulls in, so you don't need to add that. But I think this allows for some follow-ups. I think this allows for some extra creativity off stage, while also like the move is what it is on stage. This is not going to make it too crazy. And this gets better when you have like triple jump. So I think that plays into the upgrades as well. Which I think is cool. I think there's a lot of potential with like what you could do with this move. Should if it stalled you a little bit longer, if it had a little bit less end lag, like there's a lot of cool stuff that comes in with this. This I don't care about as much. I just think this would make it more usable, especially when you're holding an item. Okay. That's what I would do with forward special. It's not too crazy. Of changes, just what I'm thinking. Up special. I wouldn't really have any changes to make to up special. I think up special is fine as is. I think it's fine on both archetypes of character. There are sword characters with like far earlier kill moves than Slade's up B. You know, I think it's fine. I think you need to manage how well stuff combos into this. So I'll keep it as a note to keep an eye on. But for this guy, I don't think you'd have to change it at all. I don't think I would change the recovery aspect either. I'm fine with this character having a bad recovery. No changes. Okay, and then just keep an eye on how the changes the other moves allow you to combo into up B. If there's something broken, you can decrease the knockback. But if there's nothing super reliable, I don't see any problem with just keeping up B how it is. One of the things you could change is you make it so you couldn't like parry the up B after floor hugging it. I know Claren got that. I'm kind of fine with it either way. Again, I think they want his recovery to be weak, and I think we've buffed his recovery in other ways, like the slightly faster neutral B pull makes his recovery a little better. The forward special stall makes his recovery a little better. They're all just a little bit, to the point where it's still not good, but it gives you a couple more options insofar as navigating what this character is meant to be doing. So I wouldn't change up B. Just keep an eye on like how moves go into it. All right. Down special. We're gonna go over the upgrades in this section. I would not. I would not propose any changes to the chest. So I think the chest is fine as is. As do I think that the cost of the upgrades is fine as is. That being said, this is where things are going to differ a little bit. And this is going to be on both sides. Hookshot should do way more than it currently does. Hookshot now is oftentimes feels like a nerf. Because of how slow the Zare is to come out. You see that the Zare is frame 12. On top of like how long it takes to extend, you see that it is 8 frames here to get the full length. I would change a couple of these things. Yeah, especially because it also nerfs his grab range and everything like that. Not nerfs his grab range, but nerfs his grab startup rather. So for hook shot, we're gonna bring this in here. What does hookshot do to? Yeah, the Zare is frame 11 and is active for 7 frames. Okay. I would decrease the Zare startup. I'm fine with the grab being on frame 12 for a tether. That's not too crazy. The end lag on this is a little much. Adding 12 extra frames of end lag is a little crazy, but whatever. It's exactly Link's hookshot frame data. Yeah. I would decrease the Zare startup probably to frame 9. 11 to 9. And then I would make Zare extend faster. So right now it extends to full length in 7 frames. 8 frames. I would make it extend to full length in 5 or 6 frames. Okay. This and then the last thing I would do is because like Link Zare knocks you up. And it's not just a spacing tool. I think it would be cool if this Zare I think hitting Zare pulling the opponent towards you is kind of sick. So if you hit that like Tipper Zare hitbox, the opponent is pulled slightly towards you. Zero Suit Zare pops up for a combo. I don't think we want it to be a combo starter. But if we give it like a vacuum hit, that could be cool. Allows for the move to more readily be used. I wouldn't remove Special Fall after an air dodge cancel. Really cool. Okay. So effectively, What this would do was mean like the decreased startup plus the faster extend means that after you do the air dodge cancels, the move is going to get to full range faster. What is cool about that is for situations where you do those air dodge cancels in this kind of like triangle pattern, you now are able to get the move out more significantly, which gives you cool ways to move around the stage while throwing out a hitbox that brings the opponent closer to you. The reason we want to bring in closer to you is because that encourages some degree of like interactment. You'd have to mess with the end leg and tumble percents to keep this move in check, just to make sure that it wasn't too good. But I think this would encourage people to actually buy the hook shot, and have it have a cool usage where you start getting like triangle jump text on the air dodge cancels, where you get to move around the stage in a unique way and have a move that actually like facilitates your combo game in some way while also improving your recovery. I really like this idea for reworking hook shot. It makes it way cooler. We get to wing. For wing, I don't think I'd have any changes. You get the triple jump, which is strong as is, and you get the wave dash increase, which is already strong as well. So I would say no changes here. And then feather, I would also make no changes. Okay, we go to the zoner. Obviously, the zoner is not going to want to pull you in with Zair. They're going to want to keep you out. And I'm really hesitant to give. Oh yeah, earring is an upgrade as well. I'd say no changes to earring as well. Earring does what it's supposed to do. That's fine. It has a really particular usage, but if you like it and want to use it, then use it to your heart's content. I think hook shot is the thing that needs to change. And I think this would be a super cool way to make hook shot like a unique option while keeping the power of wing and some of the other stuff on hand. In terms of the Zair for the zoner, you wouldn't want it to be too crazy, but I do think you would want to make some of these changes. So we're gonna copy this over here. Instead of decreasing the startup, I would not decrease the startup. You keep it the same. You don't want the same amount of like movement options with you don't want the same amount of movement options with the slower character. That being said, I still think you should make the Zair extend a little bit faster. I think hitting the Zair should push people away. It shouldn't set up for a combo, but it should push people in a way where they can't just floor hug it. I think it should just be safe. You know what? I think right now Zair is pretty unsafe on shield. If I'm not incorrect. Yeah, it has 3 stun frames plus like I think it's like -9-ish. I think you should make Zair -4. Just like hella hard to punish. Like if I am Zairing you and I do it close enough to the ground, you just won't be able to punish it. I think this makes it easier to hit. This makes it easier to do a neutral. Gives you a little bit more of a reason to buy the hook shot, because you actually get some extra utility out of it. That being said, I wouldn't change anything else for the zoner. The zoner got more item changes. The sortie gets more chest-based changes just as a result of what the character does and what they are focused on. So I think that's fine. All right, that's down special. Now we have his grabs. I really have to consider how I would change his grabs if I would change his grabs. I actually don't think I would. I think Slade's grab game is in. I think it's one of the things about the character that's in the best spot that it effectively is in a good spot. You just have to ensure that the change to other moves don't buff the grab follows more than expected. And for the zoner, I don't think you have any concerns about this. When I did up smash, did I increase the knockback for the zoner? Yeah, I did. Okay. I think the grabs are in a good spot. I really actually quite like Slade's grab game. I think it allows for some unique follow-ups. Specifically because it's so good against floaties. I think it gives him a good matchup in those waters, which I think is a unique thing for a character to have. So I really like how those changes kind of show up. Okay. So that is kind of everything here. So we have strengths and weaknesses here. And now I'm wondering if there's enough here to justify what. If we should make this character even a little bit faster. It's so hard to know. Take me back up to the run speeds because we didn't actually change that much. We gave him a better ability to tech chase. We gave him up tilt is a more a safe move on back hit. Down tilt's a little bit safer, which means you get more follow ups. Dash attack easier to whiff punish. Nerfed down strong a little bit. Nerfed neutral air a little bit. No changes to back air. No changes to up air. No changes to down air. Potentially more combos out of the shuriken. Potentially more combos out of the side B. I feel like the airspeed is the thing I'm concerned about insofar as not being enough. Airspeed we have it's at 10.7 right now. We'd be moving to 11.5, which is in alignment with like fleet, but it's not like these guys. I think I'd want it even a little bit more than 11.5. I might even go as far to say like 12, which would make it quite fast. Yeah, I think I would go as far to say 12. Just so, and then the air acceleration being 0.75. Gets him there pretty quick, relatively speaking. Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna make him feel a lot faster. Obviously the run speed, dash that's like all that stuff's gonna make him feel a lot faster. So that is gonna be like the biggest buff of all. The forward air change is a pretty big buff as well. Allows him to get more route more into that like combo side of things while having a little bit more flexibility in like the movement. So strengths and weaknesses. Both these characters have a weak recovery. That just kind of is how it is. The character already has a weak recovery. We did a couple of like little things to buff it, but nothing that I would consider so significant that that it just completely fixes the character, especially for the zoner. So I think weak recovery still shows up in the strengths and weaknesses of the character. Another weakness for this character. Difficulty approaching. The zoner will not be able to approach in a significant way. So he will struggle with being camped back. It kind of he'll have more options for dealing with it now and a little bit more finesse in doing so, insofar as the changes that we've made. And being able to like store items and stuff like that will give him a little bit more flexibility. Forward special will give him a little bit more flexibility in not getting camped, but this is still something that this character will struggle with. And it is something that you will have to navigate around. Yeah, it'll still be hard. I'm trying to think if there are any other like dedicated weaknesses to the zoner version of the character that we have made. I think these are going to be the two big ones. He has a weak recovery and he has a lot of difficulty approaching. The strengths are very strong. Keep away game. Great at stuffing approaches out. Solid kill power. We buffed a couple of kill moves. He's got solid kill power across the board. He's great at stuffing out approaches, and he's got a strong keep away game. Is now more varied with additional item utility. Okay. He's got a recovery difficulty approaching, but he's got a strong keep away game that is more varied. And he's great at stuffing approaches out, along with having solid kill power. The Swordy does not have the same difficulty approaching. I guess where the trade-off is the Swordy's keep away game is now not nearly as strong. You don't have as many options for just getting people off of you. Although you still do have good options. Oh shit. I think that would justify Z-drop aerials a lot. Yeah, potentially. Less impactful, keep away his game and zoning. That being said, he now has yeah, he has strong aerial movement and solid ground movement that complement a varied combo game. And approach tools. Strong ledge game. I guess this character also has a solid ledge game. That being said, this one's definitely stronger. Strong ledge game. Strong aerial movement, solid ground movement that complement a varied combo game. And like this will lead to like way more like semi-reliable kill confirms. So this is like the zoner approach. You go for this keep away. Your greatest stuffing out approach. You got solid kill power. This is just like raw kill power. You get solid ledge game. This is weak recovery. You got less impactful keep away hitting and zoning, but you have strong aerial movement, ground movement that complements a very combo game. Strong ledge game and semi-reliable kill confirms. I think this is my vision for the two different ways that these characters play. Obviously, the Swordy is significantly more focused on movement. So Zoner, focused on keep away. The Swordy, overall focused on movement to find more openings. Where you find those like stronger kill confirms, you find that stronger ledge game, you find those stronger like presence on the map. If you buy the hook shot, you have cool stuff with the triangle jumps. Dash attacks can allow for stronger whiff punishes. And you're gonna have an easier time kind of navigating the stage, whereas this is again just more of a get off me character. Both of these characters are significantly stronger than the Slade we have in the game. Which is worth noting somewhere in here. This both of these would make the character a lot better. Where'd you place these on a tier list? Impossible to know. So much of this we would have to get our hands on in game to figure out how the like minutia of it worked. And because I can't do that myself, like if I had the modding tools to change what the character played like, I would do it. And I would implement specifically this version. And you know what? I might even slightly decrease the size of something like up tilt. You slightly decrease the vertical range. Just on up tilt in particular. The other ones I'm fine with. But yeah, I think this character would be way more fun to play as, way more fun to play against. And both would be significantly stronger. I think these dial in on two particular design approaches for this character that he doesn't really have right now. I think right now he's kind of halfway between two of these, and it ends up not feeling particularly good. I will put a disclaimer at the start of this. And I think this is important to note. That's not what I want. Let's do this. This is a disclaimer. I need to insert a text box. Spelled Slade. Since there are all the changes laid on this document are theoretical, they would need to undergo significant testing as they represent a significant change in power and ability for this character. If anyone has the modding tools available to this possibility, please let me know so I can play around with it more. Numbers included are rough estimates of where I would start. Okay, so I just want to include a disclaimer effectively that all the changes laid on the document are theoretical. They would need to undergo significant testing as they represent a significant power change in power and ability for this character. If anybody has the modding tools available to make this a possibility, please let me know so I can play around with it more. The numbers included are rough estimates of where I would start. So effectively, we go through this, we go through the philosophy of how the character's not very fun, doesn't necessarily feel like he has a lot of design directionality. We go into how I would change the base stats for this character, and then we go to changes I would make on an individual move basis for where I would want the character to land. I think all of the changes are very fair. Obviously, some of the changes to these special moves would have a significant impact on how the character felt and how he played, but I think they would be an overall positive thing, especially considering the amount of options that would open up as a result of having more movement, uh, an easier way to combo into fair, more extensions off of dash attack, a safer down tilt, a safer up tilt, more ways to approach the game, more ways to tech chase, more ways for the character to approach, even a faster way to pull shuriken. That just allows the character to be expressive in a way that actually feels interactive instead of boring. So thank you very much. If you made it through this much, this has ended up being a very long segment. I will make this document available in a video description so people can just go look at it if they want to. I will also post a video. I'll post the document itself. And then everyone can let me know what they think. And if I missed anything, if something they think would be too strong, something not strong enough. Obviously, I tried to be pretty measured in what I think would make the character good without being overbearing, but my word is also not gospel. So let me know if there's anything on here that feels out of place. Other than that, thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. This was a kind of a tour de force today. And we're going to end it there.